The Eight Immortals Travel East, Chapter 19.
Picture this. You're walking through the middle of, like, a really busy city square.
Right, lots of chaos.
Exactly. Everyone around you is rushing. I mean, they are commuting, buying, selling, just totally stressed out, looking at their phones, probably worrying about, their next meeting.
The usual modern nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly the crowd parts, and you see this guy, he's busking. But, he's not just playing a guitar. He is wearing this tattered blue gown, an enormous heavy wooden belt that looks like it weighs, I don't know, 20 pounds.
At least 20 pounds.
Yeah. And get this, he's only wearing one boot. The other foot is completely bare.
It's just such a striking image, right? I mean, it's intentionally designed to completely shatter your normal train of thought.
Well, it definitely works.
Yeah.
Because he's also holding this massive 2-foot wooden clapper, keeping a beat. And he is dragging a literal string of cash on the ground behind him.
Just dragging his money in the dirt.
Yeah. And he's singing these wild, improvised songs, and the entire town is basically stopped to stare. Now, if you're listening to this, you might think I'm describing like a piece of modern street performance art from downtown New York.
It definitely sounds like it.
It really does.
Yeah.
But this scene actually comes to us from a classic Chinese text, Chapter 19 of Journey to the East. The bizarre, honestly captivating behavior of a figure named Caihe.
And this text is just a fascinating philosophical puzzle. I mean, according to the lore in Journey to the East, Caihe isn't just a quirky historical character. He is actually the reincarnation of a divine figure known as the Barefoot Immortal.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, but what makes this deep dive so compelling is, like, the premise of his birth. When he was born into the human world, he didn't lose his true nature. The sources tell us he wanders the earth just playing through life, totally unrestrained by the rules that, we all just accept as normal.
I want to pause on that term for a second, the Barefoot Immortal.
Right.
Because that sounds like, well, a lot of mythological jargon. What does that actually mean for the everyday listener?
So think of it this way. In a lot of mythologies, when a divine being takes human form, they usually conform to human rules, right?
Right, they blend in.
Exactly. They wear the royal robes, they play the game. The concept of the Barefoot Immortal is about a being who absolutely refuses to put on the uniform of civilization. He retains his wild, untamed essence. He is essentially walking around as a living, breathing disruption to the societal machine.
I love that. And, if you have ever felt completely overwhelmed by the modern rat race or the endless pressure to accumulate wealth or just that terrifying speed at which time seems to vanish, this ancient text is essentially holding up a mirror to your anxieties.
It really is. It's a masterclass in challenging the norms we blindly accept.
It is. So let's get into the physical details of how Caihe lived, because honestly, they are extreme. We've got the tattered blue gown, the massive 3-inch wide black wooden belt, but the climate control, or I guess lack thereof, is what really stood out to me in the text.
Oh, the temperature stuff is wild.
It's insane. In the scorching heat of summer, he stuffs thick cotton into his shirt, but he doesn't sweat. And in the dead of winter, he sleeks out in the snow in just a single thin layer of clothing, and his breath rises in the freezing air like steam.
Which obviously completely defies biological logic.
Right. Which makes me question his motives a bit. Sleeping in a snowbank, wearing a winter coat in July. From the outside, that sounds like pure madness. Or, to be honest, someone who desperately wants attention. I mean, why go to such extreme lengths to draw all these eyeballs to himself?
Well, the attention is really just a byproduct. It's not the goal. To understand the mechanism behind what he's doing, we have to look at the Taoist philosophy underlying this text.
Okay, let's unpack that.
So very simply put, the Tao translates to it's the fundamental natural flow of the universe. Taoism suggests that human beings create this artificial software over the natural code. We create rigid binaries, right?
Good and bad.
Exactly. Hot and cold, rich and poor, proper and improper. And we spend our entire lives trying to get warm when we're cold and cool off when we're hot. We are totally trapped by these opposites.
So we're basically just thermostats with anxiety.
That is a perfect way to put it, yes. By remaining completely unaffected by the extreme heat and the extreme cold, Caihe is showing the crowd that he is running on the pure base code of the universe, not our artificial human software.
Wow.
Yeah, he is no longer bound by the natural laws that govern ordinary human suffering. He has stepped entirely outside the binary.
Okay, that reframes the footwear completely, walking with one foot in a boot and the other bare. It's not just like a crazy outfit, it's a physical map of his existence.
Exactly. He literally has one foot planted in the mortal societal realm, the boot, which represents civilization, rules, and status, and his other foot is grounded in the wild, natural, immortal realm.
So if you step outside the artificial rules of human biology and society, I guess the next logical rule to break is time.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources highlight this incredible detail. People would see Lan Caihe when they were young children. Then, those same people would grow old, get white hair, reach the end of their lives, and they would see him again. And Lan Caihe's face, his clothes, even that one single shoe, they remain exactly the same. He doesn't age a single day.
Which creates a fascinating psychological shift. I mean, think about it. If you are entirely immune to the passage of time, your relationship with the things that ordinary mortals spend their rapidly ticking clocks chasing it has to change.
Because the scarcity is gone.
Right. If you have forever, the concept of saving for retirement is completely absurd.
Which perfectly brings us to how that affects his view of money. Because it is hilarious. So he begs in the city square using that huge wooden clapper. People give him coins. But instead of putting them in a purse or a bank, he strings the coins together and literally drags them behind him on the cobblestones.
Just dragging them along.
Yeah. And when the string breaks and the coins scatter, he doesn't even look back. He just keeps walking.
Yeah.
Or if he does hold on to them, he just hands the money away to the poor or to the local taverns.
He treats wealth with absolute physical indifference.
It's so striking. Think about how much reverence we have for money today. We protect it, we obsess over our digital balances, we carry it in these nice leather wallets. Lan Caihe literally creates physical friction with his money.
Yeah, he makes it a burden.
Exactly. I can just hear the sound of the coins scraping against the dirt. It's an auditory demonstration for the crowd of exactly how much of a burden it is to pull wealth around with you.
And he vocalizes this philosophy, too. The source material provides 12 specific songs he would sing while busking, and they are just sharp, brilliant critiques of society.
Let's hear some examples.
So, for instance, in Song 9, he boasts about having just one garment. He sings that it's not red, it's not purple, which were colors associated with wealth and status in ancient China. It's just this one simple thing that serves as a shirt in the summer and a blanket in the winter. Year after year, just the one garment.
It is the ultimate minimalist capsule wardrobe.
It really is.
But taking it a step further, he's actively mocking the people who spend their whole lives upgrading their wardrobes.
Right. He contrasts that extreme minimalism against the pure absurdity of wealth hoarding. There's a brilliant narrative in Song 12. He sings about a rich old woman from the east side of town. He says, "A few years ago, she was poorer than me. Now she has money, and she laughs at me for having none."
I love that detail. She finally gets some status. And the very first thing she does is look down on the busker.
Typical, right. But the text notes that he laughs right back at her. He understands the joke that she doesn't. He sees the cyclical, fundamentally meaningless nature of this status game.
Because it's all temporary.
Exactly. The wheel of fortune turned and made her rich today, but it will turn again. He expands on this heavily in Song 10, where he addresses the master of the big house. He warns that worldly affairs, the constant pursuit of titles and property, is just a never-ending trap. He specifically asks the master of the house, "When will you ever get a chance to rest your head?"
Wow. When will you ever get a chance to rest your head? That cuts right through the whole modern grind set culture.
It really does.
We tell ourselves that if we just get the bigger house or, the next promotion or hit that specific number in our bank account, we'll finally be able to relax. But the goalpost just keeps moving.
Because the accumulation itself is the trap. The actual mechanism of desiring more prevents you from ever resting. And the reason Lan Caihe is so aggressively dismissive of this isn't just some generic anti-materialism. It is rooted deeply in his acute awareness of the human lifespan.
Because he lives forever.
Right. Because he is immortal, he sees a human life the way we might see, like, a mayfly.
That brings us perfectly to his songs about aging, which are incredibly vivid in the text. You mentioned there are 12 songs. Let's look at the ones about time.
Yeah, so in Song 2, he sings about someone who is 16 years old. The text calls them 2/8. They're full of bold energy, feeling totally invincible. And then, in what feels like a blink of an eye, they are a haggard 70-year-old.
That fast.
that fast. He compares human life to a spring flower that opens in the morning and just falls by dusk. And then there's Song 5, which features this really striking visual of a beautiful youth riding a magnificent horse holding a coral whip.
The coral whip is such a great detail. It just screams unnecessary luxury.
It really does. So this kid is riding down the road, completely full of himself, refusing to believe in old age. He has no idea that just down the road, the Kushan, the graves, are waiting for him. And Song 7 echoes this on an even grander scale. It talks about mighty, towering warriors with immense courage who all ultimately end up as nameless ghosts.
Okay, I have to push back here on behalf of the listener because I read those songs and my first thought was, this is incredibly depressing.
Oh, sure.
I mean, if life is just a flower that dies by nightfall, and whether you're a rich kid with a coral whip or a mighty warrior, you just end up a forgotten ghost.
Yeah.
Isn't that basically ancient nihilism? If the grave is waiting no matter what, why shouldn't I be the kid with the luxury whip having a great time on the horse?
That is a totally natural reaction. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of the text, it is exactly the opposite of nihilism. Nihilism says, nothing matters, so give up. Caihe is essentially saying, time is running out, so wake up.
Okay, I see the distinction.
Yeah. Look directly at the mechanism in Song 8. He sings about the mighty yellow river flowing endlessly to the east, and he contrasts it with human life, which has a strict, hard limit. Because everyone's lifespan has an end, his conclusion is, while young and strong, you must work hard.
Wait, work hard. The guy dragging his money in the dirt and slipping in the snow is giving us productivity advice.
He is, but he's totally redefining what productivity means. He is telling you to not waste your precious, fleeting energy on being the master of the big house. Don't waste it on acquiring the coral whip or that string of coins.
So it's about focus.
Right. The urgency isn't to make money before you die. The urgency is to discover the actual truth of your existence before the clock runs out.
So if wealth is a trap and youth is this fleeting illusion that's gone by dusk, what exactly is the listener supposed to be working hard toward? Where is this text actually pointing us?
It points toward what the text calls the cloud path. This is the spiritual journey, the Taoist path to true enlightenment and liberation from this cycle of suffering. But the source material makes it very clear that this is not an easy road. In Song 1, he says the cloud path is located in the void. It leaves no traces. You can't just, follow a step-by-step map to get there.
You really can't. And the metaphor that completely stopped me in my tracks regarding this journey is in Song 3. I'd love for you to break this one down because it features a white crane migrating thousands of miles to Penglai Mountain, which is, the mythical realm of the immortals.
Right. So the white crane is a classic Chinese symbol of the spiritual seeker. In the song, this crane makes the journey without food. Before it even reaches its destination, its feathers literally fall off. It undergoes immense physical suffering. And when it finally returns to its old nest, its wife and children don't even recognize it anymore.
This is where I really struggle with the concept. The crane loses its feathers, and its family doesn't even recognize it. Today, we are sold this idea that finding inner peace and enlightenment is supposed to be like a serene, spa-like experience.
Right, highly curated.
Exactly. You download a meditation app, drink some matcha, and boom, you're enlightened. This source text makes enlightenment sound absolutely brutal.
And this raises an incredibly important point about how we sanitize spirituality today. The source text does not sugarcoat the pursuit of truth. Genuine transformation is destructive to the ego. In Song 6, Caihe talks about the absolute necessity of erasing worldly traces. To find your true self, you have to completely dismantle the persona you've built.
What does that actually look like for someone listening to it? Because I'm trying to picture erasing worldly traces without, literally moving to a mountain cave.
Well, think about the painful reality of just ordinary personal growth. When you decide to stop participating in office gossip, you might lose your work friends.
Oh, wow.
When you decide to stop drinking, you often realize you have nothing in common with the people you used to spend every single weekend with. If you step away from the social media status game, people might literally forget about you. True spiritual transformation changes your internal operating system so fundamentally that you become unrecognizable to your past self. And unfortunately, to the people who relied on the old version of you.
That completely explains the crane's family not recognizing it. You shed the illusions that everyone else is still living in. And that's really lonely.
It is deeply lonely, and he captures this psychological state perfectly in Song 11.
Yeah.
He paints this image of sitting totally alone on a high, freezing mountain peak. He looks down at a spring and sees the moon reflected in the water. But he realizes the moon in the water is an illusion. The true moon is up in the sky.
And to see the real moon, you have to stop looking down at the comfortable, pretty reflection on the ground. You have to crane your neck and look up into the cold, vast sky.
Exactly. It's a shift in perspective.
But the text doesn't just leave us with Lon Caihe singing theoretical songs about this difficult path. It culminates in him physically demonstrating the shedding of the ego in a spectacular, dramatic fashion.
Yes. The grand finale at Haoliang. This is where the really pays off.
Set the scene for us.
Yeah.
Because this is where Lon Caihe takes the ultimate exit.
Okay, so the text tells us he meets Iron Crutchley. For context, Iron Crutchley is another famous immortal from the Taoist pantheon. He's a figure who actually cast off his handsome mortal body and chose to inhabit the body of a crippled beggar. Again, just to prove that the physical form doesn't matter.
Right, shedding the ego.
Exactly. So the two of them spend time discussing the Tao, the fundamental nature of the universe. Sometime later, Lon Caihe is drinking at a tavern in a place called Haoliang. And suddenly, out of nowhere, mystical music, the sounds of the sheng and shao, these traditional wind instruments, starts echoing from the sky itself.
And then a white crane descends from the clouds. Lon Caihe mounts the crane and begins to ascend into the sky. But as he rises, the text focuses on a very specific visual. His iconic tattered blue clothes, his massive wooden belt, and that one single boot, they all fall from his body down to the earth.
He is literally dropping the very things that defined his earthly persona.
It is the ultimate theatrical mic drop. He flies out of a tavern on a crane. But I really want to dig into the mechanism of those discarded items. Why do they fall? And more importantly, what happens to them next? The text says that as the crowd watches these items hit the ground, the clothes, the belt, the boot, they turn into solid jade. And then slowly they just vanish into thin air. Why jade?
It's a profoundly layered final image. Think about everything we've discussed today. Lon Caihe used his physical appearance, the bizarre one boot, the heavy bulk, as a teaching tool. It was his curriculum to force people to question their reality. But at the moment of his ascension, his return to the absolute, he doesn't need the teaching tools anymore.
Because he's leaving the classroom.
Exactly. You cannot take your persona, even a spiritually enlightened persona, into the ultimate reality.
Ego have to stay behind, even the ego of the mad enlightened beggar.
Exactly. And by having these dirty, tattered items turn into solid jade as they fall, he is making one final, undeniable statement. In Chinese culture, jade is the ultimate symbol of purity, immortality, and divine essence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By transforming his rags into jade, he is proving his divine nature to the onlookers. He's showing them that the physical objects, the wealth, the status symbols, none of it ever mattered. They were just temporary forms. The items vanish because you literally cannot hold on to the material world. Only the eternal essence remains.